Hi,
Hi.
Meike. Sorry, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah. But I haven't got a little icon. How strange. I haven't got a little icon for the audio, but that's okay. No worries. It's recording. We're being recorded.
We are being recorded, indeed.
We are. So
Uh,
no naughty language.
no. We have to watch what we are saying.
Let me just
Uh,
yeah, I'm a bit late, sorry, because my sound wasn't working, so I had to dial out and dial back in again and kind of work out how to do that without being too disruptive.
I
So
was a bit confused because Rachel said we had to say hi to her as soon as we got in, so I did, and I got no reply. So I thought, all right.
well,
But
exactly. I also sent you messages. It was bizarre. I don't know whether you got them. I sent you
I
an
did, and
invitation.
I
Okay.
replied, but much later. I didn't see them at the start. So
That's okay. No
uh,
worries. I can see that.
we
So the
have to see
polls are
because
up. The polls are
the
up.
polls are up. Yeah, that's the only one I think there is. I do see now at the top that it's 2 out of 10, but there are 3 people viewing. So there must be someone else then viewing now.
I think there's the moderation panel. I can't see them very well, but there's a little thing that says here moderation panel. If I click on it, I don't know what happens.
Nothing.
No, I'm hoping to.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember how to, because there's microphone, numbers of people, and then there's the leave button.
Yeah, but the leave button is only all the way at the end. Otherwise, they keep filming. But I think once, if someone, if there's, I think Rachel would do the. You especially have to watch if somebody raises his hand and then give them the
The
microphone.
microphone.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how I remember how to do that, but it'll come to me if
Yeah,
we're.
I also don't. I made one slide because they were going to make one, but they didn't. So I made one slide at the start of my presentation with just the pictures of us and our
Great.
names
Yeah,
as
great.
an introduction.
That's good. Can you, when you look at your screen, Mike, can you see moderation panel at the bottom?
Yeah, and nothing happens if I click on it.
And you can see, I can only see the title. Can you see anything else apart from the
No,
title? All
no,
right.
no.
Okay.
It's like the screen is cut off, but there's nothing. I can't go down.
Okay, that reassures me because I
Yeah,
I was like looking at thinking I can't do anything. Now listen, plan B, I may for whatever reason lose the internet because it's not been so stable, but I will be back. So
oh, okay. Yeah,
carry on as
we will
normal.
manage. Yeah, and I think my presentation is not longer than 15 minutes. I think it's quite a long time. How much did you have in mind for the breakout sessions?
Well, I don't think, well, we've got an hour and a half, right, in total, which is a
Yeah,
long time. So I think 15 minutes is absolutely fine. So don't rush.
yeah.
And by all means, pause in between things because I can be quite facilitative by saying things like, that's an interesting point, Michael. It'll be interesting to hear in
Yeah.
the chat what some people think about that because
Okay, we can do that. Yeah, make
so
it a
we
bit
can
more
do
interactive.
that. So I'd be very happy to make it more interactive for you, but then you will need to pause and not speak too quickly for me to
Yeah,
do
yeah,
that.
I will do that. Yeah, yeah.
So feel free to do a nice
Breathe.
breath. Yeah, just to breathe and don't 15 minutes is cool. And if it ends up being 20, 25, that's fine too, because we can look at the chat.
Yeah, yeah,
So to answer your question, breakouts, it really depends on the numbers of people. If we have large groups, I don't know how the breakouts work. I guess they will be operating that piece. But if we have large groups of 10, 15 people, then I think we need to give them probably at least 15 minutes for a breakout, than having them report
yeah,
back,
yeah, yeah, yeah. But also not too much longer, I think, because then you kind of lose the speed.
Yeah, it always depends, doesn't it, on the quality of the discussion they're having. If they
Yeah,
have somebody
yeah,
who's
exactly.
dominating, then
Yeah,
it's different. And breakout, of course, they all have a microphone, right? They all have a microphone in the breakout,
I
right?
think so. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, let me have a look. All right. We will
We have
we
now
will
6 people watching us, so maybe
ah
uh, but I can't see who that is. How can we? We can see in. No,
can you see?
no.
See, I wondered whether that was they're watching us. So I
Yeah.
can't see them. People, maybe it's here. No. It's quite an interesting experience, huh?
Mm-hmm. Never worked with this before, but it looks.
I'm going to write, hi everybody, who has joined? I'm going to just ask.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Ah, okay. Good. Yes. All sessions start together. I'll do the typing. You can worry about this presenting.
All right. Yeah.
Okay. It's probably easier for me anyway. Start together in 5 minutes. It's quite interesting, isn't it? So they can't interact with us, but they can probably hear us.
They could raise their hand, and then we can give them the mic.
Okay.
Maybe we
So
have to explain
we can
that
hear
at the
you.
start
Thank
as
you,
well.
Danielle. There is life out there. You can just answer live without typing. That's true. We can see you also and see you, of course. That's wonderful. Well, I hope it's wonderful for you. We hope it's wonderful, right, Meike, that they can see us.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, we're watching you. Thanks, Jacques. We'll be very careful
Yeah.
not to say any naughty jokes.
We can't see anyone though. But can we do a try? Can someone raise his hand and see if we can put you on the screen?
Yeah, that would be great. Someone be bold and raise your
Jack. Right, well
Okay,
done.
Jack,
No.
there's life. Where are
Oh,
you,
they've
Jack?
gone again.
Yeah, no, he's coming.
Hi.
Yeah. There you are.
Hey!
Works well, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah, wonderful. That's great. That worked.
Exactly. But then you need to log in. It takes a bit of time to do that.
Yeah, exactly. So
but
that's
you don't
great.
want me to be visible all session,
No,
is it?
we can remove you also, so we just remove you.
We have the power, Jacques. We can remove you. We have a remove this person from stream button.
So completely disappear for online. Yeah.
Well, we're quite happy to have someone to talk to. It was a bit strange talking into outer space.
That's what I thought. Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, nice.
Wonderful. And we have Lieke. Lieke, hi. Lieke, you must be a colleague, obviously, of Meike.
Yep.
Good. Lieke and Meike.
Exactly.
Sounds familiar. You obviously runs in the family of the company.
It's a bit Dutch, yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. To raise your hand and ask for the microphone. That was quick. Click ask to share audio and video. Okay, wonderful.
Mm.
That's great.
So you said in 5 minutes then it will start. Or 2. Yeah, but then everybody needs to make a choice where they join, and it's not possible to shift in between, or?
Well, I think it probably is actually, Jacques. I mean, we'd hope to catch your attention so wonderfully that you wouldn't want to leave. But if I may suggest,
well, this was a nudge to Meike to do a good job, because otherwise I will just join another session.
I agree, and yeah, all of us together, right, with question askers as well. So I think you can. I think you just hit the leave button, and then you can decide if you go somewhere else or where you go. I think that's the case.
Okay. I will test the leave button now, but I will promise you that I will stay in the session. So.
And if we're being boring, then come back in and tell us.
I might use that. No, but thanks for your time. I'm looking forward to it. So good luck.
Thanks for your feedback, Jacques. All the best. Bye-bye. Right, that means I need to remove you. So you're being removed. Oh, did you do that, Meike?
No, I didn't. No.
Oh, he did it himself. Okay, wonderful. So he can do it himself too. So Lieke wanted to join, but then she disappeared again. So I don't know where she went. Watching you. Okay, we have Daniela, we have Elspeth. So we have, it looks like 19. I don't seem to have as many. So what do you want to do, Meike? Do you want to get started relatively soon? Let me ask.
Yeah, let me just try to pull up the presentation.
It's like in real life, isn't it? Sometimes people are still grabbing their coffee and then walking slowly back to the session, right? There's always like a 2 to 3 minute delay. So
and then trying to get presentation to work.
Yeah. Okay, and whilst you do that, I wonder whether... So everyone, you can all hear us. So we're just kind of getting ourselves sorted to get started. So we'll start in a couple of minutes. I'm not sure where Rochelle is. Rochelle joining the session? Meike, did she say that she would join us, Rochelle?
Or
Luna?
I'm not sure. Maybe at the background. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just thinking of the breakout session, that's why.
So it doesn't work. Maybe we can start with some introductions on the chat of everyone.
Yeah, that would be great.
Or...
So it looks like we have over 21 people who probably can hear and see us. So hi everybody, I feel like I'm in a news presenter mode. My name's Chris, and Meike and I will be doing and running the session with you this afternoon. I wonder whether Meike's suggestion was maybe you introduce each other in the chat. So whatever you, thanks Michael. Hi everyone, Michael Banks from Peoplesmart. Nice to see you here, Michael. Anyone who'd like to introduce themselves briefly, where are you dialing in from, which company you work for, and possibly even your interest in this particular topic, given you're all here. And Meike, I'm assuming you're kind of still working out how to get your slides up.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get everyone busy and active doing that. And I will maybe just ask Victoria for some help. Hi, Nana, great. Hi, Femke. We have Denmark and Netherlands on the line. Danielle, hi, that's great. UCL in London, wonderful. Keys coaching. Everyone's being very active. I'm going to.
Can you see the screen now?
Yes, we can. It's rather small, and I wonder, I think everyone can individually probably make that bigger by clicking on it. So for those of you who can see the screen and like me have very bad eyesight, I do believe you can click on the screen and make that screen larger so you can see what's written on it. Meike, would you like to start by introducing yourself maybe?
Yeah, we'll do that in the, maybe you start and then I'll pick it up afterwards.
Okay, wonderful. So hi everyone, very warm welcome to the session. You will have the pleasure of our company from now on for a little while until we all get pulled back into, no doubt, the main room or some strange booth in the meantime. My name is Chris. I am the Chief Executive of Peoplesmart Consulting, which is a global consulting company specializing in innovative learning solutions. We have a booth on this session as well, where you will have the pleasure of meeting Michael, who will be looking after that booth in the spare moments around this conference. And I'm really here, my role today, this afternoon, is really to support Meike and to support this process and to facilitate and help facilitate some of the questions and really get some discussion and dialogue going. So that's really, I'm not here as an expert by any means, I'm here just to help and support the process. Thank you, and I look forward to meeting you all.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. So my name is Meike Salvado. I'm the CHRO of HaskoningDHV. I'm based in the Netherlands, also calling currently from the Netherlands. I will tell a little bit more about our company during my presentation, so we will get into that. Let me know if we can start right away. Chris, what do you think?
I think we can start. Yeah, are your slides okay? Are you working those slides okay?
Yeah, let's try. Let's try. There we go. I hope everyone can see it. So what we're going to talk about the next, let's say 15 minutes is how to transform a 180-year-old consulting and engineering firm into a technology and software-driven engineering company. And that sounds like a hell of a job, and that it is actually, and that's why I love my job, because that's what we are working on now. We are taking a proactive approach, and I am, as a CHRO, responsible for this change, the culture change of this journey that we are in as a company to transform our company. So I hope this story that we are, the journey that we are in, inspires you, and we can have an interesting discussion afterwards between ourselves. So what we do as a company, we've been around for around 138 years. We have around 6,000 people working globally, of which almost half in the Netherlands, but the rest is really in more than 100 countries spread around the globe. We are an engineer consultancy, designing water sanitation systems. We provide clean drinking water. We also do flood protection. We also design bridges and roads, highways, buildings, industrial facilities. So a wide range of all kinds of projects, with always the perspective of enhancing society together. So that's really at the core of our business, to make the world a better place, and to do that through our engineering skills. So the markets in which we operate are constantly changing and also significantly changing. New challenges arise in our economies, in the world, and in our societies. Most of those, a lot of those challenges are driven, for example, by climate change, and also by the acceleration of digital technologies. So we are taking these two fundamental trends, climate change and digital, as very important to look at how does that affect our company, and what are the changes that we have to anticipate on to remain relevant in the future. So this is our challenge that we are at as a company, to change our traditional consulting and engineering firm into a technology and software-driven engineering company. I want to focus a little bit on the digital transformation, because that's something that I think for at the time that we are in, almost all companies, if not all companies, are in some way going through a digital transformation. And digital transformation for each company means something different. I will briefly explain what digital transformation means for us, and what is the journey that we are on in our digital transformation. For us, digital transformation has two sides. First, it is delivering our services in a more digital way, where we are using data and technology to change the whole engineering process. So whereas normally or previously we would design a bridge, one bridge at a time, and start from scratch to design the bridge for the specific location and the specific needs of the client, we are now working on designing software where the software will design the bridge. So that's a whole different way of changing our design process, and a different way of delivering those services to the client. This affects, let's say, 90% of our current workforce, and also impacts the kind of people that we are attracting to the company, because we need different skills to be able to deliver these services. Now, the second part of our digital transformation is much more outward looking, because that's about how, what are the services that we are delivering to our clients. And then it is much more about software products, software services, and digital services that we are delivering in a different way to the client. And it can also mean that it's a different group of clients that we are approaching for that, and we become interesting for. So those two areas of digital transformation are at the core of what the company is about when it comes to the transformation. We're talking today about culture change. So I want to make the connection between digital transformation and culture change, and why is it so important to look at culture if you want to discuss the transformation of a company. To start with, I want to explain a little bit about our culture in the company, so that you can place the pieces together. We are partly family-owned company. That means that we don't have shareholders that are constantly looking for short-term results. We as a company can take a much longer perspective on what we deliver to the world. So that's why the enhancing society together is also really core in our way of working, and we are actually able to take that long-term view. We are very much a family culture, although quite big in size, but still very family oriented, a very nice environment, very people are working in a harmonious way together. So all of that are very good things. However, we also need to change going to the future, and that is mainly about working more in a more innovative way, more entrepreneurial, more commercial, and more digital. So we do need to change some things in our culture to be able to make the transformation that we are on as a company. What is very important that we take as a starting point is we keep what is good and we add what is needed. So it doesn't mean that we are completely changing our culture, because there's a lot of good parts in our culture that we definitely want to keep. And on top of that, we are adding those elements that we need to make this transformation successful.
Meike, may I just interject here and just ask the question whether anyone does have any immediate questions who'd like to maybe click on the raise their hand, and so they can be given the microphone, or maybe even chat a question they have in the session. Thank you. I think we have somebody here about to join up on stage with a microphone in their hand and able to speak. Hi, Michael.
Yes, it's me. Meike, I have two questions for you, really. And one is, to what degree is the ownership and top leadership of the company committed to this massive change? And
yep.
Second, to what degree do they actually embody and live the purpose and values that you need to have to make that change sustainable and effective?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So when it comes to the commitment of the top, can I park that one for a second and come back to that, because I'm going to explain the approach that we are taking in this culture change, and indeed the commitment of the top is a very important condition to make this a success. So let me answer your second question first, which is about the purpose and how much it lives in the executive team. The purpose is really strongly embedded in the DNA of our company. So that's something that is really part of our way of thinking, very strongly embedded in the people themselves. So this is. If you ask people that recently joined our company, this is the reason why they joined for a large part. And also, if you look at the executive team, this is really what binds everyone together and what is always on mind. So it's it's very strong in our company.
That's great. Thank you very much. How do I get out of here? I don't want
to. We'll boot you off the stage, Michael. Don't worry. Bye bye. Okay.
Thank you for the questions, and keep coming with the questions during the presentation. Thank you for that. So the approach that we are taking in changing the culture is a three-way approach, and I will talk through each of those three elements of the approach that we are on. And the first one, and it directly relates to the question Michael was asking, is lead by example. So most successful change initiatives, I think, as you will know, start with a strong vision of where you want to go and are very strongly led. So a committed and well-aligned group of executives, strongly supported by the CEO, who definitely has to be on board in this whole change as well, is absolutely a must. And this alignment and commitment can't be taken for granted. Rather, there is quite some work to be done in advance to ensure that everyone agrees on the case for change and on how to implement it. And if you have an executive team that is fully aligned and using the same language to describe what the company needs to do, then you can actually start. But before that, it's absolutely necessary to start with taking time to get that alignment and commitment from the top and executive team at the start. leadership also really has to understand the role they play in the transformation. And what I always use as an example to explain to leadership is actually two things. One is a magnifying glass, and the second one is a mirror. And a magnifying glass is everything a leader does at the top of the company is seen by the organization as if looking through a magnifying glass. And the leadership has to be very much aware of that. And the second one is the mirror, and that is that people in the organization will mirror the behavior they see. Compared to having children, if you have any, they will copy your behavior, whether you like it or not. Behavior is being copied, and it's the same in a company. So as a leadership team, you have to be aware that you have this role model role because your behavior will be magnified and mirrored. So the commitment from the top and alignment and having the same story, telling that same story over and over again is the first area that we are working on.
I love that picture, Meike. I wish I was the person jumping off that rock.
Yes, yeah. The picture actually of a person jumping off the cliff. If you show it to leadership, gets a lot of attention because some people say, "Oh, never do that," and that is a role as leadership in a way. Is also sometimes doing things that you may not be comfortable with,
Absolutely.
but it's you may have to do it anyway.
Absolutely.
So it immediately sparks the discussion on that as well. So this is the second one I want to talk about. We transform by changing the behavior in the daily job. And whereas leadership is plays a very important role, it only starts if people in their daily job really change their behavior. And many change initiatives assume that once people are told to shift their behaviors, it will happen. We assume that managers will become clear communicators because we tell them to do. Or we assume that people will start working together because we put a line on the org chart. You cannot assume that it will happen in that way. So compelling stories and lines on an org chart have only a little impact. It's far more critical for success to ensure that people in their daily behaviors start acting, shifting their behaviors. So we start by defining a few critical behaviors that are absolutely necessary for the success of the transformation, and then translate these behaviors into the everyday business right front and center. To really make it work in the daily job. And at the same time, of course, leaders must visibly model those behaviors as well, right from the start, because employees will only believe it if they also see their leaders doing it as well. Now, it's not always easy to change behavior, and that's why sometimes interventions are needed to actually shift the behavior. So working with targeted and integrated interventions that are designed around changing a specific or a few critical behaviors or shifting the critical behaviors at the time, interventions should reach both the emotional level of an employee and make a case for change to really understand it. People don't even have to know it's interventions, as long as afterwards they will be influenced by it and change their behavior. Interventions can also help to energize and to engage people, to stimulate collaboration and all of that. So it's very important that those interventions really touch on the emotional level and make a case for change.
Yeah. Meike, just for the benefit of the group listening in, would you be able to maybe give an example of something where you observed a really effective intervention where the emotions were touched of a large number of those participants, and there was a real kind of what I would call aha moment in terms of what the organization needed them to potentially do differently? Can you maybe just give an example just to bring it to life to the group?
Yeah, and I will give an example that is really at the starting phase. So that is really at the awareness phase of getting the top aligned, so getting the executive team aligned on where do we want to go and why is culture so important as to change anything in the company. So it was seen for a while it's a must-have. We have to, culture is on the agenda, we have to do it. But to really understand that culture is actually the driving force that we need for the transformation, we needed to create that awareness within our leadership team. And one of the interventions, and you can call them intervention or just something you do, and that's the beauty of interventions. I think there's a whole range of whatever you can do as long as you reach what you want to reach. So this time it was the alignment. We wanted to get this alignment, commitment, and really the energy up from this is what we are going to do. This is where we want to go. This is the shared vision that we have. So what we used in one of our last, in one of the meetings with the executive team, and I don't know if any of you have seen the Netflix series about Michael Jordan, about the NBA basketball, Michael Jordan. It's called The Last Dance. It's on Netflix now. If you haven't seen it, watch it because it's just great. It's all about mindset. And this is having a vision of the future, a collective vision, and then make the plan to get there. So by getting by showing a 2-minute clip of that Netflix series, where you can really see the power of culture transforming an organization. That was for us the moment that our leadership team made the click. And that's just an example of that we recently used on how to get that done.
That's great. Thanks, Meike.
And I'm very keen to hear also later on in one of the breakout sessions how you've done this or how you plan to do this. What is your experience with this?
Great. I'm chatting it in the chat, putting it in the chat so people can react.
Yeah. So the third way of our approach is what we call a cultural lens over every process. We talked about leadership, the role, the importance of role modeling, the commitment from the top. We talked about the behavior, changing the behavior in the daily job. And there's one more important element in this whole change, because like in many companies, or maybe all companies, many of the behaviors are driven or influenced by the processes that we have in place. And if we really want to change the behavior, we also need to change or review, and if necessary, change the processes. So what we do is we put a culture lens over every process so that the processes will actually stimulate the behavior that we seek, and not, like in many cases, be a blocker for the behavior that we're looking for. So for example, you can do that for every process in the company. One is, of course, a very obvious one is the performance and development process, but it's also related to target setting, to the way we do budgeting, to the way we do our annual reviews, the risk management, or project management. So it's about every process in our company. Put that culture lens over it, and then check, does this stimulate the behavior that we're seeking, or does it block the behavior? So that was the third one.
Are there any questions or observations from anyone in the group for Meike, in the same way that Michael did? Raise your hand and then we'll pull you into the session. So great. James, I'm pulling you in.
Hello.
Hi, James. Lovely.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Really interesting stuff, Meike. I just had a quick question. I mean, I guess it's an obvious one. You talked about vision, and obviously we're all trying to look forward to understand what the post-COVID-19 world is going to look like. How much of a focus are you putting on that? And to what extent do you think you'll do things a bit differently? Maybe not differently, but if you think you'll be doing things differently from what you've just described.
Yeah. And James, before Meike answers, can you just share where you're based and who you work for so we can make that connection?
Well, probably you can tell I'm British, but I live north of New York City.
Oh, fantastic.
My wife's with the United Nations, which is why we're here. But I represent a UK-based change and transformation firm called Morehouse, which is part of a much bigger Franco-German group called Explio Group.
That's great. Thanks very much, James. That's lovely.
Thanks.
Yeah. Now, I thank you for the question, because I think it's a very relevant question, because that's the time that we are in. But at the same time, if you really go back to the beginning, there are some things in the company that will not change, and that is the basis of what we are working with. So, looking at the purpose of our company of enhancing society together, looking at the values that we have as a company, that is still remains at the heart. So the business environment may change, and the way we interact with the business may change, or with the society may change, but at the heart, it's still the same. So when it comes to culture, the only shift, or the only thing that we are more aware of now is the need for agility as a company, the resilience and agility. So that is something that the agility to making quicker decision is something that we have put more emphasis on in the behaviors. But if you look at the core, it's still the same. We are still the same company. But the agility and being able to respond quicker to changes, or external changes, that is something that we have become more aware of. Where we were already making the change, gradually it has become more to the forefront.
Great, thank you for that. I do have another question, but I'm going to wait until the breakout sessions, so as not to hog the oxygen in the room.
James, you're more than welcome to ask your question. Now you're on stage, and I interrupted you earlier, so my apologies. So please do ask your question. We have the time.
That's fine. So very quickly, and maybe it's a kind of quite a complex question, or the answer is probably complex, but you know, your company, obviously it's private. I did a quick LinkedIn search, obviously civil engineering consulting, 5,000 to 10,000 people, and 180 years old. So that's a specific type of company, and there are other different types of company. And I was interested to get a sense of whether you think your approach is applicable across a full range of companies, or whether you think you have some advantages or maybe disadvantages because of your particular characteristics as a company. But again, I realize that's quite a kind of complex answer, so maybe we can cover it later.
Yeah, I like the question. It's very interesting one, and I can give my view, but I would also be interested to hear from companies hearing the story, whether this would be actually applicable to your company or your business environment. And of course, there is every company is different, but in a way, looking at the role of leadership, leading by example, looking at translating that into actual daily behaviors, and making sure that your processes are aligned with the behavior that you're seeking. I think those three elements can apply to any company.
Yeah, I think there are universal things like that. Sorry.
Yeah, no, and the advantage that I think that we have as a company is the long-term view that we can take, because we don't have the shareholders that are aiming for short-term results. And that is an advantage, I think, that we have as a company, which also has made that our company has become, in a way, a bit lazy when it comes to the commercial perspective. And that is something that we are trying to change now. So.
Fantastic. Great answers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, James. I'm going to kick you out again, I'm afraid. There you go. And just so you're aware, Meike, there's a couple of comments that have come through on the chat. So Evie, thank you very much. Evie Kempen is curious for an example of putting culture lens on project management. And similarly, similar question again from Michael, giving an example of the culture lens on a behavior. So that's come through on the chat. And then Jack, to your comment, you know, same theory, different practice. People are people, I think, just to add on to your debate just now with James as well. That was the comment from Jacques Péris.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I don't know whether you want to answer that question now from Evie and Michael around an example of putting the culture lens on project management or on a behavior.
Yeah, let's take that one now. So looking at project management, every company has their own processes for project management. So I can only comment on the way that we have our processes done. And for example, in our processes, what you see is there are so many approvals needed from a project manager. So a project manager wants to do this and needs approval of that and approval, which in a way is taking the responsibility away, which is taking the ownership away, because you're no longer responsible, you just need the approval. It's taking the entrepreneurship away and the whole commercial relationship with the client. So that is a way that we are looking at. If we want to give people more accountability, if we want them to be more proactive towards the client, towards the market, do we really need all those approvals? Or do we have to address risk management and the things that are very important in a different way? So that's the way we are looking at it, by stimulating accountability, but at the same time asking for all those approvals. That is a clash. So that's something that we are working on. And a way that we have done in the past of looking at that is we had a pilot, we called it the red tape pilot. Well, we know that a lot of the way things are done in the company, there's a lot of red tape on it and things you have to do and things like that. So we took a few units in our company and said, well, we take away everything. And now let's see how it goes. So we took all away all the formal approvals, all the risk assessments that went up until the level that the CEO was still comfortable with, which was actually, because it was a pilot, we were quite positively surprised by how much we could take away. And that was a way to make it very tangible and to start really working on, okay, if we don't want this, then what do we have to change in our process? And how can we actually do that? So that was a way of taking it in a pilot way. You could easier change it and make it tangible.
Thanks on behalf of Evie and Michael. Meike. Yeah, there we go. You got a thank you in the chat.
Thank you. And keep the questions coming.
Yeah.
So this is our approach. The lead by example, transform through behaviors on the daily job, and a culture lens over every process. And then there is one more thing that is absolutely important to make this a success, and that is the mindset. So culture change doesn't depend on leadership with a large personality or with inspirational stories or with giant leaps of faith. However, what is really needed is honest intentions, conscious thought, and focused efforts. So when leaders honestly lead by example, that's where you get the alignment with culture. They launched a thought process into the company, and everyone is watching. Once others get the message, I also be thinking like that, I also be acting like that, they start stimulating, they start behaving like that as well. Now, by having at the same time also the processes aligned, while you unconsciously will stimulate the behaviors that you need, you will get it going. And then the result is that everyone in the organization will start looking for the desired behaviors and will start thinking in this new way of acting and behaving, and start applying it in their own behaviors. When consequently they will promote the desired behavior to their fellow colleagues, That's where you then really start. And once you see that happen, that is the point where you can say, okay, now we are on a journey of culture transformation, which it is the starting point of transforming the company to where you want to go.
Meike, there's a question that's come through. There's a question that's come through from Margarita Temudo. I like saying that name. It's lovely. How fast did it go? How fast did it go? It could be quite a general open question. It could be something specific you've said. So I'm going to just hand it over to you. Sorry, thank you, Margarita. To change the process. How fast did it go to change the process?
So we're never ready. We're not ready yet. So you can see it go fast in certain areas, and you can see it very slow in different areas. And at the same time, I also think that culture is so closely connected to the strategy of a company and to the strategic ambitions of the company, and therefore the transformation of the company. So looking at the time that we are in, the transformation and the changes will only be faster. So that also means that you will that culture change is also going to be constant. Where you may have a branding strategy for 2 years, you may also have a culture strategy for 2 years. So I don't think it ever stops.
So it's an ongoing process. There's a couple more comments and questions coming through. Thank you from Margarita. That's a pleasure on behalf of Meike. So Jacques is asking the question, how do you measure where you are in the process? And then I've got another question from Danielle afterwards. How do you measure where you are in the process?
I think that is one of the difficult things with culture, where there is certain ways you can measure processes. You can measure how far you are in changing the processes. That's an easy one. But whether you really change the culture is the behavior. So what we do to measure is several things. Conversations with key stakeholders. Do you see a changed behavior? Do you see people are acting differently? That's one. And of course, like I think all companies, we also do our engagement surveys, pulse checks, and our client surveys that we do at least yearly. And in those, we also get comments, or we see a reflection of where we are in our culture and how do. At the end, what is most important, the reason why we are doing this all is to do a better job for our clients. So it has to be reflected in how the client sees it. So the internal and external behavior are very closely connected.
And a question from Danielle Watson. Thanks, Danielle. How did you define success, or how do you define success? Were you looking at internal metrics or only external ones, or external ones as well?
Yeah, so that is slightly related to what I just commented on. At the end, it is only successful if what we see as a culture transformation at the heart of the transformation of the company. So it's only successful if we transform as a company, and that we can see in the success externally, because that's a success that we have with our clients. So at the end, that's where it all comes down to. When you break it down and you go to a lower level, you can have internal metrics that can see if you're on the right path of doing the right things. But at the end, the only thing that counts is really how good you're doing for, in our case, for society or for clients.
Thank you on behalf of Danielle. Are there any other, I don't know whether you have anything else you'd like to share at this point, Meike, or whether you'd rather take other questions from the audience, have people come up. I think Michael's ready to come up. Would you like us to do that? Just go straight to questions, Meike?
Yeah, I'm happy with questions. Yeah.
Okay. I think one's about to come via Michael again.
Hi there, it's me again. Meike, so my question is around the idea of how you can make society a better place to be, to live, to work. It sounds a bit of an odd question, but how real is that question for your leadership and also the people in your organization? Because, you know, this idea of not just being in it for the money and the profit, but also making the world a better place has been around for a long time. However, if it's real, it can be very powerful and very motivating and engaging. To what degree is it that in your organization?
Yeah, I would say that we are very lucky as an organization. I really behave in the purpose myself, and so do my peers. So, how real is it? It is made real by the people and by what we do. So, as an example, if we get a presentation from the business line, from a strategy from one of our business lines, it starts with, we enhance the lives of 100 million people. And that's what we are about. And then you get how they do it. So, for example, this was by the business line who is of water. So they are enhancing the lives of people by providing, amongst others, clean drinking water. But the way we start or story or strategy is about what do we achieve, what do we bring to society. Numbers will follow later, and so the strategy is not about we need so many million revenue and this is the profit that we need. No, this is what we stand for, and this is what we want to achieve.
Thank you very much. Fantastic. It's very encouraging.
Yeah.
Good example.
Yeah, it is just a wonderful company to work with. For,
Are you recruiting, Meike, by any chance?
No. I just it's really in the heart of people.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, you can feel it by the way you talk about it. Thank you very much. Thanks, Michael.
No, you're welcome.
Are there any other questions out there in the audience? We've had quite a few, haven't we, Meike? Questions from everybody via the chat or coming up. People braving the microphone and coming up on the stage. I know we do have a few more people out there. Arnold and Andrea, you're out there. Julia from Stuttgart, from Hugo Boss. Anyone else got a question for and Elsbeth as well, and Nana? Lovely international audience today. Anyone out there got a question? Feeling brave enough to come up on stage and ask that and share your webcam for a few seconds?
And if not, I think we have a few questions for you.
Yeah,
right?
I know we do. Very good. I think, Jacques, you have come back up. That's wonderful.
Hello. Yes, exactly. Thanks. Nice presentation. Really interesting to hear. And also the challenges that you have and the solutions that you presented. One question about sponsorship that you talked about with the executive management. Yeah. What you often see is that when you have a presentation like you did with the Netflix movie, then they get it in 2 minutes. Okay, yes, great, this is what we need.
Yeah.
But the next day, they told you again, okay, good luck. And you need to do it now again. So it's delegated again. So my experience is that it's really difficult to keep them motivated and to keep them on board. I think it has to do with the honesty that you talked about. They have to be truly leading by example and in an honest way. But how do you make sure that this is done structurally? How do you make sure that they keep their role throughout the whole game?
Yeah, so I would like to answer that question by two things. One is sponsorship that you started your question with. And what I find very important is that it's not an HR thing. So culture is something of the whole company, and it's not from HR, it's of all of us. So what I did from the beginning, and what we did from the beginning, is that we have a co-sponsorship from our executive team. So I do this together with one of our business leaders, and we are both responsible for this project. And that brings another perspective to the table, and we play our roles whatever works best. So by having her telling the story, it immediately becomes a business thing. And you create this way of saying, oh, it's something of us. So that's one thing that I think is very important. You really need to have that ownership also within your team of business leaders, and not keep it in HR. So that's the first thing I think is very important. But the second part of your question was around how do you make sure that it is not forgotten the day after. So you also there have to do the same trick that is, let's say, of this second of our way of the approach. So make it practical in the daily job. So what we do there is to make it very tangible for them. So the next day we have a leadership group call, which is in a company with the top 200, and it's a call by the executive team presenting and talking about different topics. We made sure that all of them included 5 sentences or a few of those to make it directly part of their story. So we will continue doing those things, but also we're very much aware that we have to help them as well in making it tangible for their daily job. And everyone's daily job is different. At the top, it's a different job than what you have at a different part of the organization. But still, you need to make sure that they can relate to the behavior that they have to do.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. And I like what you say about making it practical, making sure that they can do it easily. So good. Yeah, nice.
Great.
To hear the example.
Thanks very much, Jack. I'm going to just take you off the stage again. So just really to the audience from a facilitation and timing perspective, we're now just 4:15, certainly in CET time, an hour earlier in the UK. We actually, Meike, you ran a few polls, didn't you? Defined a few polls for this group. We're very, very interested in your feedback. Many people have already actually responded. So all of you on the right-hand side of your screen should see 3 options. One is chat, one is polls, one is people. If you hit the poll thumbnail, you will have the opportunity to actually vote against 2 questions. The first question is, what is the best way to influence and change behaviors? And then you have several choices. Do not be influenced by what I can see, which is one definite winner in that one. And then where would you start? The second question, where would you start to roll out your company culture change program? So with those of you on this call, having now listened to Meike's wisdom, and having had some time to reflect, where would you start to roll out your company culture program? And again, you've got a few choices to choose from. But Meike, we had some questions for the group, didn't we, as well?
We have some breakout sessions with a few questions. Now, the questions that we have for you is,
I've got them in front of me.
Or
how did you?
Go ahead then.
Yeah, how did you or will you convince your leadership team that culture is the catalyst for change? So that relates to some of the questions we've received so far. So how would you or did you convince your leadership team that culture is the catalyst for change? That's one breakout session. The other breakout session is, how do you make the culture change tangible, and how do you measure progress? Again, we've touched a little bit on that particular item, maybe not enough. And then the third breakout, which interventions have made most impact on changing behaviors? Again, we had a few questions on that one. So we've created these breakout sessions. I understand from the GEE organizers that everyone can join these sessions. They're smaller group sessions. You apparently will find them, I've been doing my research in the back via the chat, you will find them on the sessions button. If you hit the sessions button, Diane, hi, yes. So repeat the third. Which interventions have made most impact on changing behaviors? Which interventions have made most impact on changing behaviors? So to go to the breakout session, so you'd leave this session, but you'd go to the breakout session, is you go to your left bar on your PC screen, you hit sessions, and you should find the option of one of those 3 breakouts. So you're more than welcome to go and visit those breakouts and to actually discuss and have an unconference session on those particular themes with other like-minded colleagues. Meike, I think you and I will hang around here in case anyone wants to still ask us a few questions. But for those of you who'd like to go and meet your colleagues on a theme, then please do so. And we have Elizabeth, coming up on stage, maybe to ask a question or to make a point, a recommendation.
I see there is the link. Rachel, send a link on the chat now with
that's breakout. The first one. Yeah, so the first breakout session, I think you just hit that. And then what that one is, how did you or will you convince your leadership team that culture is the catalyst for change? The second one, she must have heard our request telepathically. The second one is breakout session is the question, how do you make the culture change tangible and how do you measure progress? And I'm assuming the third one will be up in a moment. Thank you, Rochelle, very kind. Which interventions have made most impact on changing behaviours? So please feel free to click away on that. Meike and I will be here, won't we, in this room? We'll stay here.
Yeah.
And
one thing, I think it's nice to have a wrap up at the end, so everyone coming back to this session, so that we can hear what you've been discussing.
Exactly. So in terms of timings, we were going to say maybe see how you do, 15, 20 minutes. We'll be here when you're ready, and then it'll all magically, seamlessly fit together, I'm sure. Thank you very much for your attention, everybody, and have a good discussion in the breakouts, and see you shortly. Bye-bye, Jacques. Michael's desperate for the microphone again to come up on stage. There you go, Michael.
Yeah. Very, very quickly, because I got to get back to the booth. But actually, someone else asked the question, which is, someone asked the question, did you have to deal with any resistance to this change from the people who've been around for a long time? I'm just fascinated to know if that was the case, what was your kind of solution, generally speaking, to that?
Yeah. I think there's always resistance in the company, because no change goes without resistance. So you need a bit of it has to be difficult, otherwise it's not a change. So there will always be some. What our experience is, it's better to go with the ones that want to change, and then the rest will follow, and some won't follow. But that's also okay. Then you say goodbye. So that's also part of the change that we're in. Not everyone wants to be where we want to be as a company. But if you do the other way around, you lose too much effort and too much energy in trying to convince the ones that are not convincible. So that is our approach.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. I've got to go. So thank you, Meike. It's brilliant. And
thanks, Michael. Yeah, no, we're done. There's a few.
Thanks, Michael.
Yeah, there's a few more left, but I think they're probably also leaving to join the breakout. So see you later, Michael. Great. So we still have 6 people left, but they may still be thinking about which session to join. So maybe for the benefit of the few people still on the call, I shall remind everyone, Breakout 1 is all about convincing your leadership team that culture is the catalyst for change. Breakout 2, how do you make the culture change tangible? How do you measure progress? And Breakout 3, which interventions have made most impact on changing behaviors? See you later, folks. Have a good discussion.
So you said people were answering the poll already?
Yeah.
Do you see that?
Well, you have to answer it first, otherwise you won't see the results.
Ah, okay.
It's a secret.
I wasn't going to influence it, but
so you have to.
I'll do it at the end then.
Yeah, do it at the end. Don't be influenced by it. Exactly. Do it at the end.
Yeah.
But there's definitely some winners.
Nice to see.
68% for one option. I'm not going to tell you which one. 68 for the first one is clearly the winner on one of the answers, and 52% on the second question.
Interesting.
Good. Well done, Meike.
Yeah.
I hope I was helping you as you needed me to.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think it's good to do the questions in between, because it makes
it's more alive, it's more engaging. You saw that we had a lot of the really good questions, very engaged. Most people asked one, I think.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's good.
Yeah, we seem to have, they have to leave. Remember the thing about leaving? Remember the thing they explained about us about leaving? You have to leave. I wonder whether some people have actually left their audio somewhere else.
Yeah, but I think...
Hi, Elspeth. You took a long time to get to stage. You clicked that. I clicked you in a long time ago.
Oh, did you? Okay, sorry. I cannot join the breakout session, or I'm doing something wrong, or am I on my own? I don't know.
I've absolutely no idea, because I can have a look for you, because we're doing this for the first time as well. Normally, there should be people in there.
So I join and I put on my mic and the video.
Yeah.
Wow, and then.
If you need help, what I've been doing is I've been chatting Victoria in the background, Elspeth.
Yeah.
So I've been. Yeah. I'm not the technical expert, but normally, yes, you join. You'd have to then activate your audio and your video, and you should see, like you've just joined here. You should be able to see everybody.
Yeah. Okay, so
maybe it could have been that you were too early and no one else had joined yet.
Yeah, could be.
Good to see you, Lisbeth.
Hello, good
Nice.
to see you. Nice to see you on stage this time. Yeah. Okay, so I double click on Victoria, something when I want to chat with her.
Yeah, if you want to chat with her, you just go to people, find her, and just click with your mouse, and you'll be able to chat with her.
I will.
Okay.
So my reading
All
glasses. I see better. Bye.
Bye. Oh, we still have people. We still have 9 people in the session. Huh?
Yeah. So if there's any more questions, you can ask them as well.
Yeah.
Arnold.
Oh, so here we go. I can see nobody in room 2. So actually, everyone had the same problem. Everyone had the same problem. So Diane says, I'm the only person in room 1. Danielle says, I see nobody in room 2. Evie says, I have a blank screen in room da-da-da-da. I think so, yes.
So we can also just come back here and try to do it here. We pick one of the questions, the discussion here.
We can do. I'm going to just bring up Arnold on stage because I've got somebody who wants to take the microphone. So I'm just bringing you on.
So
hi there.
Yeah, just breaking in because I was interested because I will be a speaker in the 2nd of July. So great that you're doing all this groundwork for me, like experimenting with breakout sessions.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
We're brave, aren't we? Or crazy.
Yeah. So sorry that it's not working for you. So I was just here because if she wouldn't leave or couldn't leave, then I would step in for Elsbeth, and at least she could have me as a talking
sparring partner.
As a sparring partner. But it seems to be okay.
Yeah, it seems to be okay. I think Diane de Smit has just confirmed it's okay. So I think we're good.
So
I think maybe there's something needed to happen before it actually was activated.
Okay.
Oh, no, here we go.
Great.
Diane de Smit is going to join as well. Hi, Diane.
Hi.
Hi.
Did
you get into the breakout?
No, it didn't work. I tried to get in number 1, but I was the only one there and I couldn't find anyone. So I don't think it works. But
so in
let's
that
get everyone back here and have a discussion here.
Let's do it here. Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think it's about 20 or 50 people, 20 to 50 people. I've had discussions with 70. That's way too much. But if you put everyone on mute and people raise their hands, it should probably work to discuss.
It won't, Diane, actually, because the maximum number of
won't.
microphones for this session is 10. So what I suggest we do as a process, if I may suggest, I'm going to be very linear about this, is that we'll just take the first question, which was so for all of you listening who have not managed to make it to the breakout rooms, let me just take the first question. How did you or will you convince your leadership team that culture is the catalyst for change? If anyone would like us to talk about that particular topic, please raise your hand and we'll bring you up on stage and we can have a discussion for up to as many as 6 other people. So if you'd like to join that discussion now's the time to join that debate. And Arnold and Diane, were you interested in that topic as well or not?
Well, yes.
Yeah, I am, but I missed a large part of your presentation. I was just here to help, and I was coincidentally in the middle of you trying to. So I will step back so people who are already engaged in your talk might get more out of it than me.
Okay, that's fine. We'll do that. Thank you.
I will just observe.
Okay, no worries. So if anyone's out there still actually in the session, I see we've got at least 6 or 7 people in the session. If anyone would like to join the debate, otherwise I think we'll just have a discussion, ladies, with us on stage, 3 of us spontaneously on this topic. We can do that. If anyone would like to join, please.
People can join in whenever they want.
Exactly.
So that's fine. Yep.
So starter for 10. Diane, what's your perspective on this particular question?
Well, I had an example. So I was listening to your story, and myself had a interim assignment half a year ago, and trying to have this typical Dutch social housing company move towards a more sustainable route, having to make their real estate more sustainable. And there was no one in the board of directors who was really engaged with it. So I took the board of directors with me to show them a typical building in Amsterdam that is really up to standards. It's part of the ABN AMRO complex, and it's called Circle. And
Mhm.
when we were, it was mostly on the topic of circularity and recirculating building materials. And when we got there, they finally understood, and and then it hit them. So it really helps to take them out somewhere and show actually what to do. And so that was basically what I wanted to share. And I was wondering what other people have done. So that's it. So shall I leave now?
No, you can stay, but we can have some more people up.
Yeah, we've got a few
I'm also
people.
curious. It really helps to show and not just tell the story. And I think that then you really touch them on the emotional level.
Yeah.
So would be interested to hear some more stories of others.
Yeah.
Anyone else out there would like to chat something on that topic or join us up on stage? It seems that the breakouts are now working, but I'm receiving mixed messages from the chat, so I'd rather not promise that at this point. And I have no control over it, so that will not be helpful for anybody. We still got a few on this call. I mean, if I may comment just from a content perspective on that particular first question, I think getting the leadership team and having the role modeling behaviors that are required, which then filter down the rest of the organization, are absolutely fundamental. And I think, Meike, to your point, you know, within a team of people, there are always going to be people that are more on board and less on board. The quicker you can identify those that are on board, the quicker you can get them to give something energy and momentum, the easier you will be able to then pull everyone with you. But you will always have laggards, what I call laggards. You'll always have people who have their heels on their shoes stuck in. And you know what? At some point, you just have to move forward anyway. And I think that's just the reality. So I guess I have quite a black and white view on that particular one. If the leadership team or the key sponsors are not behind the initiative, it's kind of a waste of energy otherwise.
Yeah.
So the other two breaks. So apparently there are some. There is one breakout that is working well, and there are people in the room having a discussion. Everyone on screen. So, but the others are empty. I can hear noise in the background.
Yeah, I think I should be leaving because there's a group of people coming in. I'm sorry.
Get them to join, Diane.
Yes.
Great.
So any other, we can also discuss the second question.
Yeah.
Is anyone?
How to make culture change tangible, and how do you measure success and progress? Does anyone want to come up on stage and join us for that one, or have any comments or response to that particular one? And I think, Meike, I don't know whether you covered this off. My apologies if I missed it, but I think in business, we often get challenged on measuring things, don't we?
Yes. Yeah.
Measuring progress, because clearly these things have a budget attached to them. There is a significant investment involved, and whether you be a public company or a private company, people want to see the return on their investment and the energy and effort in an organization going into a project like this. So I think this is a fundamental one, right?
Yeah.
How do you make it tangible? How do you measure the progress?
Anyone want to share their experience with us?
Discussions in breakout 3. Oh no, thank you very much for coming back. I'm pulling you in.
So maybe if nobody else is.
Yeah, please.
Yes, please.
So I think on how to make it tangible and measuring your success. I think it's very dangerous to stick to this idea of return on investment, because you can only measure your return on investment if you can predict exactly what your project will do, so you can calculate the return. And the problem with that is that you need to get ahead and to reach your vision, you need to do things you don't know what the effect will be. So the only thing you need to believe is that if you stay in this spot where you are now, you're doomed. and you need to move forward. So I would suggest that you would measure whether you are moving forward. So you could measure how many people are engaged, how many new ideas are developed. Is the performance for your clients moving up? Are you more reliable, a higher quality, better safety? All those things which are important to the various stakeholders. And if you do that right, then you get the right financial return. But if you start with the ambition to have financial return at the start, that's very difficult because finance is what they call a lagging indicator. Only at the end you know whether you did right financially.
Yeah.
So that would be my suggestion.
And Anna, maybe just you can say a few words about who you work for, where you work, the organization you're part of.
Yeah. So I'm an independent entrepreneur. I call myself the lean mentor. I have a background in engineering, worked in the automotive industry, and learned there about continuous improvement, lean management. There's all kind of names for how to become excellent. And since I think about 15 years, I'm focused on healthcare because with my systems thinking and my experience with me and my children in hospitals, I felt that there was a great need to understand that to perform, you need more than only just bright people. You need a process and a system, and you need to know whether you perform or not. So then I decided to do this lean management in healthcare. And and last year I published my first book on the topic. And in this year, just this week, my second book, so maybe I can show them. So I'm very proud because you can see it's a series.
Yeah.
Currently, these two are in Dutch. And in August, this book will come out in English as well, with an American publisher.
Great.
So, and then it will be called Lean Thinking for Emerging Healthcare Leaders. So what the book and what I try to do currently is to teach people who are recently, mostly, in a leading position, to give them some kind of structure and help to know what to do, because there's little information available for professionals how to manage and how to lead. And I think it's important that they figure out an effective way to engage everybody around them to improve healthcare for the better. So that's
great. That's great. I guess people who want to find out more can do so next week, right? As part of next week's session.
I'm the speaker at the 2nd of July.
Okay, so the last session then. Yeah.
Yes, but each week I have
a booth.
I have one of the booth. So if somebody wants to chat to me, they can do it there.
Okay, great.
So thank you for the stage.
That's okay. Now you know how the technology works. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arnold. Good. We've still got 11 people in the session. Meike, has anyone out there got maybe something they want to share on interventions that have made most impact on changing behaviours? For those of you who, clearly are in this space within your organisation, small or bigger, that would like to come up on stage or maybe even in the chat and just share some of their insights on that. So that's the last breakout. I believe the breakouts actually are working, Meike, at the moment. That's my understanding.
Yeah.
Trying to follow the chat as well in parallel with everything else. Multitasking. So in terms of interventions have made most impact, anyone out there with a question or a comment? Or if those of you are interested, I believe
we can try to call the ones back from this breakout.
We could do. Held in Dutch. Yeah, I think Rochelle has just gone off to do that. Because in fact, that is 20 minutes up. Huh?
Yeah.
And
See if
Michael,
they come back.
Michael, where are you based exactly yourself?
In the Netherlands, in Amersfoort. So quite in the
Amersfoort,
center
yeah.
of the Netherlands. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a racing track in Amersfoort, isn't there?
Not sure about that.
Ah, okay. I don't know why I've got that in my mind. Maybe that's something that sounds like that. I grew up in Holland. I should know this.
You did?
Yeah,
No.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Learnt my hockey in Holland,
Ah, yeah, yeah.
of course.
And I'm actually in the office today. So normally from home, this is my first day back in the
Ah,
office.
it's your first day back in the office. Ah,
Actually, yeah.
wow. Are you all back, or is it a voluntary basis?
No, just occasionally, and we have very limited capacity still in the offices. So yeah, only if you have a good reason to go, you can go.
Is a good reason also getting away from the family to have some peace and quiet? Does that count as a good reason?
Could be a good reason, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to say, being based in France, we were very, very confined over the last months, a little bit like the UK and China and Japan.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be given the freedom again to be able to travel more than a kilometre 1 hour a day from your home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyone who, you two have great energy. Thank you, Anna. You're very kind. Anyone who's come back from the breakout that would like to maybe share something that's come out of the breakout sessions? Anyone willing to share who'd like to get up on stage or share in the chat some of the things that came out of the breakout? I know it was an unfacilitated discussion, so I'm sure there were a lot of ideas being thrown around.
Yeah, and I wonder if they're back already, because there's still like 11 people.
Yeah.
Might take some time. I don't know.
We had yeah. Here we go.
Oh, there's Michael.
I'm here. It's challenging to find our way around. I mean, there's a message from Rochelle saying everyone goes back to the main session.
Ah, okay.
Now. So am I the first, or?
Are you the first?
Yeah, it could be, because we still had some people in, and so you could be the first one coming back.
Because I went to 3 breakout rooms. 2 of them were empty, and one of them had 4 people with 2 people speaking in Dutch. But the other 2 breakout rooms, there was no one there, it seemed. Maybe I got it wrong, I don't know. But anyway, I only wanted to check in.
No, you can stay there.
To learn something about this breakout.
I could go back to my booth now.
I'm just writing a little message. You're welcome to stay, Michael. I think, it seems that the breakouts were not fully functioning as we would have liked to have hoped, and that it happens in the background, and we can't steer it, we can't control it from where we are on this panel. And if we leave, then of course we leave this session as well. So
yeah. Well,
yeah, we had clear instructions not to leave the session,
so we obeyed them, didn't we?
We're in lockdown. We're in temporary lockdown.
We're in temporary lockdown, but it's a very different lockdown. So Rochelle has just confirmed the announcements were made to return to the room. So we should have a few more back, and I'm hoping we'll have some reporting back as well. Did you have anyone in the booth, Michael?
No one.
Okay.
No, I was just waiting there, looking at the bottom of the screen to see if anyone would arrive.
In the hope of, okay.
Checking
it's quite interesting, this virtual conference room. As it's not the same as having it in real life, but for a virtual one, it kind of works.
Yeah.
It does. I think part of it is getting used to just the technology around how you go from room to room or session to session, or all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's still, I'll say this because I'm seeing on social media some people saying it's virtual now, from now on. It always will be virtual, and that's it. And I'm pushing back along with some other people saying, no, wait a minute. We need a mix. We should never forget the value of being there in person with people. And of course, in this GEE thing, of course, Chris and I, Meike, have you been to one before? In a real?
No.
Okay.
We have very good memories of being in Amsterdam over the last 3 years. and actually being there with a coffee in hand and talking to someone and being in person. And there's no doubt that we must maintain some of that, even though we can get used to this like anything else. You get used to it, you know. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, my view is I think we probably, I mean, it's forced us all to learn a few more digital skills, even if we were already on that journey anyway. I think, I mean, just from a, you know, I think it's a good reflection to have where if you're going to meet face to face, you know, does it have to be face to face or can it be digital and online? But I do think one of the benefits of going to conferences, just that human connection, which clearly you get far more when you're face to face with somebody than when you're online. And even if you master the technology 150%, most other people still don't, you know. So I think it'll be a mixed bag, but I think people will be desperate to get to some sort of face to face event after the summer. They'll want to have that human contact again.
No, definitely. I also think that, but at the same time, we should also not forget the advantages of having these kind of sessions in this format or any other, but virtual sessions, because it opens up a much broader range of events that you can actually attend. Because you have no travel time, it's just the only time you need to block is the time of the session itself. So it does open up a wider range of opportunities, and also internationally. So it also has advantages. So
I agree with you, Meike. And changing the subject completely, I'd also just like to say to you, that was fantastic. It was music to my ears to hear what you were saying about your organization. In terms of the purpose and your contribution to the wider community, the world, and also because of the fact that, you know, I've been part of 2 amazing organizations in the past, actually 3 now with Chris, but in the old days, bigger organizations that were similar to yours in the sense that the leadership was truly committed to the purpose and how that moved through the whole organization and engaged and motivated people in a way that was just magical. And to see your enthusiasm about it was really refreshing. And these things can happen. You know, it's easy to get jaded and to be cynical, but thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Thanks, Michael. So we have 13 people. It's gone up and down. We've had a few more as well. I wonder whether, if anyone is back from the breakouts, whether anyone would like to share what was discussed in the breakout session. Is anyone out there would like to do that? I do know from people in the chat that there were a couple of rooms there was some discussion going on. I think particularly the third room. Anyone like to come up on stage, grab the microphone, or chat in the? I think to Arnold's point, online summits are great for introverts, so they prefer to tend to chat, and then you have the extroverts, Michael, and others who come on the stage, who like to get up on stage. Anyone like to share? Okay. Good. And Meike, maybe you didn't say a lot about your previous experience before where you are now. What were you doing before your life today?
Yeah. No, it's nice you asked that question. I've been in my current role actually only for 1.5 years now, or a bit less. And this is my first role in HR. Previously, I've been with the company for more than 12 years now. But my role before this, I started in the company in a commercial role, a business development role, and that was in one of our offices abroad. I was based in Thailand at the time, and that's where I started working for our company. I did that for 7 years, and then I moved to the Netherlands, where I took on a role in corporate strategy. So really the defining the strategy of the company. And that's what made me so interested in making this move to HR. Because I really see that the only way to change things in the company is through the people and through the culture. And that's why I did this to HR. So that is my background in the company. My background is in engineering, so civil engineering. I can speak the same language as most of the people in our company, so that also really helped. My previous jobs were in construction, so always in a construction engineering role. and now from a different perspective, but still in the same world.
No, that's very good. It's very good. I think, I mean, I don't know what your views are on this, Michael, but I think many of the HR leaders, managers, experts that we meet, professionals, they have quite varied backgrounds, but it is quite rare to find someone from HR who has what I call the sort of technical or engineering or another functional background which has nothing to do with HR. So it's actually, and I do think it's a huge advantage if you can speak that language, especially if, like yourself, an engineer within an engineering environment. That's, you have automatically a lot more credibility, and you can, how to, navigate your way around to be able to influence and convince people as well to do certain things, which is great.
Yeah. I think it really helps, and it's just making that bridge between HR and the business.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chris.
No, go on. Go ahead, Michael.
I had a very fascinating experience, Meike. I used to do a lot of work for American Express in New York, and also internationally. And they had different parts of the organization, like card operations, the bank, and so on. And so they had a number of different chief financial officers. They also had a chief financial officer who these CFOs reported to. And what was so fascinating was the fact that the CFO, the overall CFO global for the company, and several of the CFOs that reported to him were actually, if you look at the Myers-Briggs personality type thing, you know what I'm talking about, they were ENFPs. In other words, they were more feeling-based in their decision-making, and more people-oriented. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, these are CFOs. It's not quite really what you're saying, what Chris was saying about you having a technical background going into HR. But it's interesting that, I think from the maybe those CFOs would be good at going into HR. If you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, I'm absolutely in favor of doing those exchanges, because it makes you richer as a person, and it makes also it makes it richer for the company.
Exactly. I think that
so these cross-functional experiences are always good.
I think also you just said something that was really important. I'm a great believer in a richness of experience in life in general. Yeah. The more diverse experiences you have, the more you bring in terms of wisdom and knowledge of how things work.
Yeah.
Rather than being narrowed. If you spend the whole life in HR from when you were leaving college, then it's not so good, perhaps.
Anyway. Elspeth, thank you for joining us up on stage. The reason I asked Elspeth to join us is because she asked a very good question, and it's too good a question to just leave in the chat, which is, Elspeth, your question was, how can leaders build trust? It's a very big one, that one. Can you tell me more about, or tell us more about where that question is coming from?
Yeah. Actually, I'm running a leadership program at the moment, and one of the purposes is changing the culture. But there is a lot of distrust in the organization. So even if the leaders tell me they're really willing to change and really see the purpose of it, etc., embracing all the stuff about culture, etc., there is distrust in the organization, and it has to be rebuilt. So give me some very, very good tips and tricks, please, because they're also. And of course, I tell them it's a long process. It's like, they distrust you. So it's a little, you have this story of Simon Sinek, right?
Yeah.
Do you love your wife? Huh? He tells it's a long trip. So, okay. But they don't want to hear that. Yeah, they do understand. But maybe you all have some nice tips for me, so I can tell them. Thank you.
Thanks, Elspeth. Meike, do you want to just give your view on that question? How you built trust?
My view, and then everyone can add to that. For me, it really starts with honest intentions. So you really have to be honest, and they have to believe it themselves. So the leaders have to really honestly believe it, and you need time for them to get them there. But without that, you will never be able to build the trust, because the honesty will really be, or not honesty, will really be reflected in what they do. And they have to then, so that's the first one, and then they have to demonstrate it. So it's all the phases that you have to go through. So really understand, believe, and then actually act upon it, so that they can see that you are also doing what you say that you're doing. But that's easier said than done. So, and then, right?
Yeah, yeah. Michael, your view
Yes,
on that? It's a big one,
I've
isn't it?
definitely got something to contribute here. So, Elizabeth, I've come to realize in recent times, in the last 2 or 3 years particularly, that possibly, the most important factor in a leader's success is authenticity. Now, if you think about authenticity, it includes what Meike is saying about honesty, and it also includes about having alignment, congruency between your honest intentions and actually your daily behavior. So there has to be alignment. But authenticity in itself as a practice or as a pursuit, as a leader in every walk of life, I think is critical, because authenticity is about, is inspiring, it engages people, and more than anything, it engenders trust. Because people just love being around especially in these days, someone who's real, who's authentic, and you sense it. You don't just see it in the behavior, although that's important. Anyway, authenticity to me is the core of it.
Yeah. I always that's I totally agree. And everybody knows it. Like you say, everybody senses if it's authentic and honest. Huh? So but still, yeah. Thank you.
And I think I would just add, and I think Arnoud wants to say something as well, so I'll put you on stage in a second, but just a very, very small thing, I think, in terms of how to create the bridge of trust as a leader with your people, is coaching that leader to understand that sharing sometimes, not their failures, that's too big a word, but maybe some of their mistakes that they've made in the decisions they've made, some of the things they wish they had done differently, and having them understand that by sharing those little mistakes or those learning moments that they've had in their career is not a sign of weakness. It is not a sign of them not being strong. In fact, on the contrary, showing the vulnerability is a strength. Now that tiny little thing is a very, very hard thing to coach people on, because of course we live in the world where being strong, being big, being great, is always perceived as the thing we should be doing. But I would, if in your role, Elizabeth, I would say challenge your leaders on those sorts of they could be doing like that, which people then think, oh yeah, then it's okay for me to speak up and also say that I don't know, or I made a mistake. So whatever it is, but just those little things I think made a huge difference.
Yeah, being vulnerable, right? Just the strength of vulnerability.
Yeah, the strength of vulnerability.
And it's interesting, actually, in this organization, they show a lot of vulnerability, but then, so they make, it's easy for them to say, because it's like it's a non-profit, little bit of soft organization, but at the same time, they make the mistakes over and over again. So the vulnerability is, it has, you have to improve, right? So I think, it's probably more being authentic, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I also think that Elizabeth, that if people are making the same mistakes, even though they're being vulnerable and wonderful, that perhaps they're not being held accountable because people are not brave enough to hold each other accountable, whether it's leaders and so part of authenticity, I think, is the willingness to hold your colleagues accountable, so that if they're not doing what they say they're going to do, and that takes a lot of courage. But it's like, can you live with yourself if you don't hold people accountable? You just go silent and you're being very nice. It doesn't make a difference, does it? So just thought I'd chip in with that.
So much, yeah.
So can I chip in?
Yeah, you got a little. I think we're gonna close pretty soon, I know, but all means,
so,
yes.
I just wanted to talk about the other side of the medal, because trust is a two-way street. So yes, it's important to be vulnerable and authentic, but what also is very important is what you do when somebody else approaches you or tries to be honest or try to live up to their mistakes. So, and I think they call it psychological safety.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure that if somebody admits to a mistake, that your response will be, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
And not, how could you? Or that's the second time, or whatever judgment you might place on them in your attempts to solve problems or to have less mistakes. So I just wanted to make sure that you teach the leaders that how they respond to what others are doing is as important as what they're saying themselves.
Absolutely. No, I think we're all aligned on that one.
Okay, great.
Good.
Yeah, it's nice.
Okay.
There you go, Elsbeth.
Thank you.
Some tips for you.
And
Great.
I will lead you to go into my book.
Thank you all a lot.
You too.
That's a pleasure.
Thank you all for joining.
Yeah. Thank you all, everybody. We'll come to the end of our session. I guess now is the exposition time. Lovely to meet you all. Meike, well done. Great job. And we'll stay in touch.
Thank you, Chris. Nice to work together. Yeah.
Likewise. All the best as well, Elsbeth.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
And remember, Chris, we have to leave, otherwise the video will continue.
We have to leave, otherwise the video will continue. Great. Meike, thank you for a great session. I'll find you, and I think I've already connected to you on LinkedIn, but if I haven't already, I will do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Take care.
Hey, thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.